Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. This is the Everything in Bloom on the 8th video. Regular update, always takes place on the 8th. I do cheat sometimes and film on the 7th, but not this time, it is actually the 8th. I was hoping we'd have a sunny day and I could get the blooms in the sunshine, but quite honestly there's a lot more cloud than sun. And if I keep waiting for sunny periods, I'm going to be here all day, I think, because I think it's just going to cloud over completely. So we'll crack on. We've got a couple indoors to start with, a couple of Phalaenopsis in bloom. I think this one has been the star of many videos, because the blooms are just lasting for a very, very long time. It's only got 4 blooms on the spike, and I'm beginning to realise that when I see a spike that ends like that, and I always think it's going to extend, quite often it just doesn't. I mean, if you look, I know this isn't in bloom, but there's one down here that looked like it was going to extend. Well, luckily it branched, so that's going to bloom. But anyway, that's the Phalaenopsis Singmin Brontosaurus, and not all Phalaenopsis blooms have to be huge to look good. The patterning on that is lovely. So a little named Phalaenopsis. I've got another Phalaenopsis out over here. That's a no ID, but the combinations of colours on that is lovely. You know, you've got that lovely deep magenta towards the centre, a different type of purple on the lip, and the edge of the lip's got orange tinges around it, and then the background colours are a delicate yellow. So I mean, it's a nice combination of colours. Again, not a large bloom, and it's another one that's got a spike that looks like it's going to extend, and it may never do that. So that's inside. Let's go out into the jungle. Where to start? I'll probably end up filming this in bits because I've got some other things on the go in the house that I need to keep my eye on. I don't only live in the grow room. We'll start off with this one. This is Maxilaria picta, or that's what was on the tag, and it's never bloomed before. It has now, and I am now quite confident that that is not the normal picta. It's far from it, in fact. This should have lovely spotted patterns on the back of the sepals, and again markings on the inside of the bloom. So either it's been tagged wrong when I got it, or it's an alba form. But either way, because it's not what I wanted, you know, when I saw the picture I thought, yep, I like that, we'll have that. And now it's actually bloomed, it's not what I wanted. And I've got limited space, and I can't really be doing with a plant that doesn't appeal to me that much. Yes, it's a nice sort of yellow inside and there's some nice markings, but it's not enough for me to warrant keeping it. So I'm actually going to sell that one on Saturday at the Orchid Society. So take a last look. My Dendrobium rhodostictum is still in bloom, and it may well still be in bloom next time round. It's like almost everlasting flowers. No, they're not plastic, they are real. Up the back there is my Kiki growing on of Spring Dreamer pollen that's actually got blooms on, but the main Spring Dream pollen is this big one here, and this isn't coming to the end of its blooming because it's still got buds, but at the moment it hasn't got as many buds as it has had on the last time we filmed it on the 8th, but nonetheless it's still got buds to go. And I think this is going to have a trickle feed of more blooms even as the main blooming finishes. But as Dendrobium nobiles go, it can turn into a big strappy plant. So it's not one for the feeble of heart that haven't got much space, quite honestly, because it can get big. I mean, you see the length of that cane is 2 foot. Okay, that was the best one last year, but this one's not too far behind. But lovely blooms on this. I really do like these. It's the delicateness. It's the pure white with that pale greeny yellow centre and those lovely little pink tinges. I absolutely adore those blooms, and when they're en masse like that, you know, that's quite a show for that one. What else have we got over this side? We've got my I think it was, oh, the tag's gone, whoops. I think it was Epidendrum, and it's now something like Dinema, whatever the hell a Dinema is. Well, it's one of these basically, and it's polybulbon, and this again is a first time bloomer, and it's not bad, you know. I mean, there's 2, 4, 6 blooms out. It's a bit of a climber and a straggly plant. It will climb, but those 2 extensions going up to the top of the mount, they're going to get taken off and move down to the bottom part of the mount, and they can grow on up through the bush again and just create a more bushier look to it. Otherwise I'm just going to end up with extensions hanging off, and it won't look as good. I need to try and keep it on the mount, so yeah, I'll probably take those 2 extensions off and plant them down there. But lovely little blooms, lovely little delicate blooms. I can live with that. That definitely gets to stay, and so far they appear to be quite long lasting. The bottom bloom, the lowest bloom on the plant, that was the first one to open, and that was a while ago, and it's still there, and some of the others have only just opened, so it looks like the blooms are quite long lasting. Very attractive, and quite a nice looking miniature orchid, but it has the potential to get out of hand because it's a climber, you know. So although the individual bulbs and the leaves are quite small, the plant itself can probably get quite big. But lovely little plant, I like that one a lot. And my only Lamia in bloom has also been in bloom a very, very long time. You can see the original spike had blooms, and then it branched and bloomed again, and now the branch has bloomed and it's blooming again on that one spike. It's the one plant I can almost guarantee, don't cut the spike off, wait till it goes brown and dies back, because you never know, it may shoot out again. And I really like these Lamia blooms. They're balanced, you know, they've got a delicate gold edge to the top petals, sepals, whichever, and nice markings on the lip, lovely deep red colour at the top. It's a nicely balanced bloom. The other spike on it is just finishing, but there again it's branching, so there will be more blooms to come on that branch, maybe 4, something like that. So that's the only Lamia out at the moment. The others are coming on. We should see some blooms later in the year, hopefully. My only Vanda out at the moment. The first bloom opened on that spike in the first week of November. It's now the first week of February. You just can't ask for more than that. I think that's the longest Vanda blooms I've ever had, and a lot of that is to do with the cooler temperatures, I'm sure. But it's still not showing any serious signs of going over. It's still hanging in there. And it is absolutely stunning. The patterns, the colour, and the fact that those blooms have almost doubled in size since they first opened. You know, they've grown on to be much, much larger blooms. These are large blooms, you know, very large blooms, and beautiful colours, almost black lip, the deepest purple. Well worth having that one. Yeah, absolutely stunning. I'm not sure I should include this really, it's cheating a bit, but there's one bloom still okay, so it's still officially in bloom. But this is my, oh god, what is it, Ranko Stylist Gigantea, and the blooms are going over, but again, I mean, that spike actually opened, first bloom opened at the end of November, so it's lasted quite well. Again, probably the lower temperatures, which this plant doesn't like that much. Hopefully it will start growing a bit better once the warmer weather comes. But nonetheless, it has grown a new leaf through the winter. On this one, there's 2 in here, tucked in together. They're the same, so they just will go in the same basket. But yeah, it is going over now, so that'll get allowed to die back in the not too distant future. could cut that off if you choose to do so, but with a spike that short, that is a poor spike. Gigantea bloom spikes can be up to a foot long, if not even longer, so that's its first time, but it's not a strong spike. It's nowhere near the sort of length it should get up to, but at least I got one, so I was pleased with that, and quite long lasting. I haven't got the fragrance on mine, and I've found that often when a plant blooms with a poor quality spike and it's its first one, there just isn't enough in the plant to push out the fragrance as well, and so it just doesn't have any. Maybe it will next time. These are supposed to be fragrant, but this one, unless you put your nose right in the plant, it just didn't have any. But maybe next time round, or maybe the other one if that decides to bloom. Because the other one, the bigger one at the back, has never bloomed. It's this little one at the front that decided to bloom. Anyway, at least it did. My only Cymbidium, unnamed hybrid, is still in bloom. These are generally accepted as being quite long-lasting spikes. I wouldn't have expected this to even look like going over yet. But 2 spikes on that one, 2 nice spikes, first time bloomer, and these are nice colours. There's a lot of the Cymbidiums, this shaped type Cymbidiums, they've often got like what I call dirty colours on them. You know, they're sort of shades of brownish purple and things like that, and they often, to me, they look a bit grubby, some of them. I mean, I do love the white ones, especially the cascading type. I'm not going out and buying Cymbidiums. The plants are too big, and for me they need mucking about with. You know, this is going to have to go outside for the summer months. You know, get the brightest light I can give it and everything, hopefully get some new growths going. And then if it produces spikes, you know, that time of year when the spikes come, it starts to get cold outside, and you know, there's a limit to how much cold it will take, and then it has to come in here. And I mean, it just takes up too much room, even though I do like the blooms. But it seems to be lasting well, that's the good thing. I've got 2 Phalaenopsis type Dendrobiums open at the moment. I've got this white one. Well, it's white with creamy green tinges, you know, either side of the lip. There is a little bit of purple in the centre, and these 2 sepals have got the same tinges on the end, but to all intents and purposes it's nearly pure white. It's quite attractive. All the other buds blasted on that spike. It's just too cold out here for these really. And the other one that's open is a named Phalaenopsis type, that's Thai Angel. All the buds open on that spike. You know, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? You know, I accused the other one of blasting its blooms because it was too cold, and yet that one pushed on and all the blooms opened. So, I don't know, it's difficult to tell, but they certainly don't like getting cold, so that's what I'm accusing the other spike of doing. It got too cold. But that one's open nicely. Lovely patterning on the petals and sepals, and a lovely, I suppose you'd call that a cerise purple colour. But yeah, I do like that one, and as my Phalaenopsis Dendrobiums go, the plant is doing quite well, because most of the others aren't. But that one is. The latest cane on that, much bigger than anything before, and a spike. So that one at least is doing quite well. Now this is 2/3 of my Masdevallia Snowbird. The other third's in a separate pot. Actually repotted this recently. It had 0 roots. Not one viable root on the bottom of this plant. It fell in 2, whether I liked it or not. I could have put them both back in the same pot, but I thought we'll start another one. But it's the first Masdevallia bloom I've had for quite a while. So say, I haven't really got the right environment for them. It's a bit warm in here for them. And the only reason I get away with it is the high humidity. But a lovely, pure white bloom. No coloration on that at all. The tails have got like a creamy tinge to them. But, you know, you can see why it was called Snowbird. Pure white bloom. Whether these 2 pieces are actually going to make it or not, I really don't know. As I said, they had 0 roots, but they are pushing some new growths. So in theory, they're capable of producing a root system, but they haven't got one at the moment. Both plants were just stumps. That was what I potted, and we'll see what happens. So that may be the last time we see that. We shall see. I've got 3 Restrepias with actual blooms open at the moment. There's buds on one of the others, but not actually open at the moment, and the ones that were there have just gone over, so it just missed its chance. But what I wanted to do was just show the difference in the size. This one is this is a species. This is Falkenbergii, and a lot of the Restrepia species do have blooms similar to this size. But I just wanted to put 2 together just to show you the difference. These Eric Young Foundation crosses, the blooms are just so much bigger. I don't quite know how they're doing it, but they're doing it well. That one's Haulis. They've all got flipping French names, and my French is atrocious. My English isn't that good. And this one is Havre des Pas. I will put pop-ups for the names of the plants through this video, because otherwise I only get asked. I just will do the pop-up and have done with it. But lovely blooms, quite large again on that one, and again quite large on that one. They look very similar, those two, but and then this one I have. This one's been superseded as a new favourite because the colours on that are stunning, but you really do have to get in close to really appreciate them. But I've now got an Eric Young cross that's identical in virtually all respects to that, except for the blooms are twice as big. So that's now my favourite Restrepia, but it hasn't got any blooms on at the moment. So that's the 3 Restrepias. This one I've had quite a long time. It objected to being repotted, hence the crinkles to some of the new leaves. If the leaves don't hydrate properly, they crinkle. They just don't open right. But it's just about recovering now, and some of the newer ones don't look so bad. So it's coming on. The other 2 are younger plants. I've had this one quite a few years now. If those others are going to get as big as that, they're going to start taking up the whole shelf. But 3 Restrepias out in bloom at the moment. They continuously bloom. They come and go throughout the year. They don't like have a period when they are never in bloom for quite a few months. They come and go all throughout the year. So with the number of plants I've actually got, which is, there's another giant one at the back that's just finished its blooms, and another Eric Young one. So there's those 3 and 2 others, plus some very young ones that won't bloom for a year or so. So I've got a few of these. They seem to don't do too bad in here despite the heat, and the reason I get away with that is the high air humidity. Without that, these would not grow. They don't like the heat, they don't like intense light, but they do like very high humidity. Up to and including virtually 100%. I've seen these growing really well in like Wardian cases and places where the air humidity is at 90–95% constantly, and they love it. It's just where they come from. Montane forests, permanent mist and fog, so very high humidity. Low humidity, they're not going to do too well. They may still make it and they may still grow, but they do much better with that high humidity. My other Latoria type is blooms lasting well, but they just do that. I shouldn't even bother saying that, because anybody who's got Latoria types knows that the blooms just last ages. So I say it's you know, you'd think they were plastic, the amount of time. This one has most of its colouring on the back. Lovely spotted patterns on the back with a sort of flush of a pale yellow, creamy yellow. And then on the front you have the pastel colours. So the sort of yellow and the spotting shows through. And then you've got the delicate markings on the lip. That one's actually got another spike just opening, and it's got some more buds coming on one of the other canes. So there's going to be a succession on this, whereas these have probably got another month and a half to go. and that's about how long they've been open. So this one is going to have blooms on it for a very long time now, and that's Polysema crossed with Aberrans, so that's a primary cross. Delicate little flowers, and the plant's going mad. It's chucking up new canes left, right and centre, that one. I think it's got about 5 new canes growing on that, so the plant's doing well, and I like the blooms. Nice one. All the buds are open on this one now. This is a BLC, although it probably isn't anymore. Chances are the Brassavola element and the Laelia element may well have been renamed. It might just be a Gatlea now. Who knows? But at the moment, on the tag, it says BLC Youngmin Orange. I would say that was a well-named plant. Some of the names are a bit daft, aren't they? But to call that one Youngmin puts it in a set. There are lots of Youngmins around, and to give it a variety name of orange is just logical. There's 2 spikes on that plant, one each side. Well, that's the way the new growth's headed off in opposite directions, so there's 2 leads on the plant, which is good. And hopefully I may even get more this time round. But it is a lovely orange. I wish I could have lit that up in the sunshine, but lovely depth of colour. It deepens. You can see that's the latest bud that's opened, and it's a paler orange, whereas this one was one of the first to open. It's a much deeper colour, so it darkens as it ages. I haven't got a clue how long these are going to last, but hopefully with the cooler temperatures they should hang in there a while now. But both spikes are fully open and they're not bad. I think there's 7 on that one, and I think there's 6 on the other one, so not bad at all. I'm very pleased with that. Lovely colour, lovely splash of orange. I'm a sucker for the oranges. Just going back to this plant, I know I'm always complaining about, you know, plants getting moved out of a genus and a new one created and this, that and the other, but that was an epidendrum and it's now been moved into whatever I said it was, Dinema, yeah? Epidendrum. Epidendrum. They're not even close. Not only in their growth pattern, their leaves, this is a caned dendrobium, leaves all up the canes, and there is no similarity whatsoever in those flowers. So sometimes you can see the sense, can't you? But talking of oranges, this one caught my eye. I walked up to it, looked at the price tag and walked away with the plant, and the man kept my money. It was one of those, I just took one look at it and I thought, yeah, I'm having that. I mean, unless they're in adverse conditions, these radicans hybrids, they grow like weeds. You have a job to kill one of these. Every new growth that this put on last year is blooming. There's still one a little bit behind, but all 5 of the others have all pushed out blooms nicely together. Beautiful orange. The radicans type are often nicknamed the crucifix orchid because you can sort of see the cross thing on the top. But these spikes should extend. I mean, you can see they open from the base of the spike and form like a rosette around the top. But in the centre you can see there's plenty more buds to come, and gradually the lower ones will die off, the new ones will come out and replace them, and you know, it can last a long time in bloom and just keep pushing up more and more buds for an amount of time. How long this one's going to do that for, I don't know. The last lot of blooms were what were on it when I bought it. But, you know, I can keep my eye on this one and get a feel for how long this is going to be in bloom. Won't be the same blooms, it'll be replacing them constantly, but it's still in bloom as such. Absolute beauty. I can do these 3 together, save getting them down. The Oncidium Twinkle yellow is in full flood at the moment. All of the spikes are now open. How many have we got on there? 6 of them. Nicely branched, very, very lovely yellow flowers and very fragrant. But with the duller light today, well, it's got competition because there's actually a Sharry Baby spike right in amongst it. The Sharry Baby looks like it's going to go over very soon, but it does actually have another spike coming on the other side of the plant from the other new growth. So there'll be a gap, obviously. That spike's got to grow and mature. And this wasn't the best of spikes. Sharry Baby spikes have normally got quite a few branches on them and are considerably longer than that. But technically that's a recovering plant. It hasn't long been repotted, and quite a few parts of the older plant, when I repotted it, actually got taken off because they were leafless bulbs and they were starting to show a brownish colour, which I wasn't too keen on, so I decided better safe than sorry and took them off. So effectively this is now really back to being a young plant again. Nonetheless, it's got a spike on this new growth and another spike coming on the new growth the other side. So it's picking up, I think is the easy way to say. The Nelliila Red Velvet has got one more bud left to open now. One of them just dropped off not that long ago. I got a feeling I might have knocked it and broken the stem. But lovely depth of colour on this, very good. It does lighten with age. When it first opens, it's a really more the colour of that bud, a very deep colour. And then gradually, that's the oldest bloom, they do get a lighter tinge to them. But very, very deep red and with that lovely deep yellow gold centre. And yeah, just the two colours makes that work for me. Lovely blooms. Now unfortunately it looks like Laelia Anse is not going to be around too much longer. I mean, this bloom's definitely got signs of ageing now, got brown tips, yeah, and this one as well. I think there's only, no, I think they're all, that's about the only one that's still retaining its colour. But these are not long-lived blooms anyway. I've probably got a little bit more life out of them because of they bloomed in the winter. But quite honestly, most of them do. I mean, some people manage to get these to bloom twice in a season, but anyway, I got two spikes on both of the new growths, and it's still one of my favourite orchids. It stops me dead in my tracks at shows and things like that. If I see Laelia Anse, I just walk up to it and look at it. I just adore these blooms. It's just, again, it's the combination of colours that just works. And normally I leave the best till last, and that's what this one was last time round. But sorry, you've been superseded by a first time bloomer that probably most of you aren't going to agree with me. So this is my saving the best till last this time, simply because I did not expect this to bloom. It has. I expected the buds to blast. They haven't. So this one has surprised me more than anything. And as Sailaja Knees go, these are lovely blooms. That colouring in the lip is absolutely gorgeous. The frilliness of the petals and sepals, the hood on the lip, everything about them I like. And it's even got frills in the lip. Yeah? The way this plant probably works as far as pollinators are concerned is there's like a landing pad here and a runway strip going up the centre of the lip. Crawl here please. That's why you might get some pollen and I get pollinated. Just don't do it in here please. But anyway, two open blooms, very well pleased. This one's probably going to open tomorrow. The other two look like they're going to follow on. I mean, when I first looked at these buds I thought that's going to blast. And that bud there is what that one looked like a week ago. So I thought it was going to blast, and then it did that. So I think they're all going to open. But yeah, that to me at the moment, that's my star of the show. Quite large blooms, and the purest of whites with that lovely yellow centre. And there's a lot of unusual going on with this, with the frilly bits and the frilly bits inside the lip. I don't know how well the camera can pick those up, but it's got like a frilly pathway going up the centre of the lip. Very attractive blooms, and yeah, well pleased with that. Okay, that's it for today. That's everything in bloom on the 8th. and I doubt if it'll be next month, but certainly the month after, these resting dendrobiums should be starting to kick blooms out. That increases the bloom count quite dramatically, and there's quite a few of the Oncidiums and intergenerics should be maturing new growths and spiking in the not too distant future. But as for blooms actually opening, or actually being open, that's actually it for today. So see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.